So how did you find out?
I found out when it was online, like when it hit the news.
Nobody in your inner circle
Nobody knew.
And you didn't smell it?
No. I knew he would sell my music. I knew he would do that. I couldn't believe who he sold it to, because we've had endless conversations about Scooter Braun, and he has 300 million reasons to conveniently forget those conversations.
Now, could you re-record?
Oh, yeah.
Might you do that?
Oh, yeah.
That's a plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Under U.S. copyright law, a music release is subject to two separate copyrights: the copyright to the song or musical composition itself, and the copyright to the specific recording of that song, which is usually contained on a master. The master, from which copies are made for use in sales and distribution, is the original recording of the song. Therefore, the owner of the master also holds the copyright to all means of distribution for the recording, including physical media, like CDs and vinyl LPs, as well as digital distribution for download or streaming. On the other hand, owning the musical work is referred to as the publishing rights, which covers the lyrics before it became a sound recording. Its melodies, sheet music, composition, and instrumental arrangements. Songwriters generally own the publishing rights and are referred to as the publishers of the music.
Country night. Y'all want to hear some country music? Later on, you want to hear some Jack Ingram? Right now, you want to hear some Taylor Swift? You're in the right place. I was riding shotgun with my hair undone in the front seat of his car. He's got a one-hand feel on the steering wheel, the other on my heart. I look around, turn the radio down. He says, baby, it's something wrong. I sing nothing, I was just thinking how we don't have a song. And he says, our song is a slam the screen door, sneaking out and tapping on your window when we're on the phone and you talk real.
In 2003, at the age of 13, Taylor went to Nashville to try and sign with some major labels, but was rejected. She tried her luck again the following year and received an artist development deal with RCA Records before becoming the youngest artist, age 15, signed by the Sony publishing house, but left shortly afterwards due to concerns that development deals may shelve artists. Swift took part in an industry showcase later that year at Nashville's Bluebird Cafe, where she was recognized by Scott Borchetta, a DreamWorks Records executive who was considering starting his own independent record company. Swift ultimately agreed to a 13-year recording contract with Big Machine Records, the new Nashville-based record label founded by Borchetta. In exchange for a cash advance, Big Machine received ownership of the masters for Swift's first 6 albums under the terms of the agreement. Through his media company, SB Projects, Scooter Braun, an American media proprietor, talent manager, and businessman, is credited with managing the careers of musicians Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, Demi Lovato, and Kanye West. When Braun acquired Big Machine Label Group, they encompassed all aspects of Big Machine's business, including its client roster, distribution deals, publishing rights, and music masters. On June 30th, 2019, Swift made a post and stated that she had tried to buy the masters for years, but was not given a chance unless she signed another contract that would require her to create 6 more albums under the label in exchange for the masters of the first 6, which she felt was unacceptable. She emphasized Braun's contribution to making Kanye West's 2016 Famous music video, where West used a stunt double to play Taylor, which she called a revenge porn video which strips her body naked. Swift also alleged that Braun colluded with 2 clients to bully Swift online and persuaded Kim Kardashian, who was then married to West, to arrange an illegally recorded snippet of Swift's phone call with West. She was alluding to a FaceTime screenshot of Bieber, West, and Braun that was posted to Bieber's Instagram after Kardashian released the snippet. Despite being aware of Braun's involvement in harassing Swift, Borchetta was accused by Taylor of betraying her loyalty by selling the masters to Braun. On November 14, 2019, Swift claimed that Braun and Borchetta had stopped her from singing some of her older songs at the 2019 American Music Awards and using some of them in her upcoming documentary, Miss Americana. She said they were exercising tyrannical control over her music and claimed Borchetta told her team that she would be allowed to use the music only if she agreed to not re-record copycat versions of her songs. Swift commented, "The message being sent to me is very clear. Basically, be a good little girl and shut up, or you'll be punished." For an estimated $405 million, Braun sold the masters, related videos, and artwork to Shamrock Holdings in October 2020. Swift claimed that she tried to bargain with Braun, but that he only gave her the opportunity to get the masters back if she signed an ironclad NDA that only let her talk favorably of Braun. She refused to sign the NDA. She also claimed that Braun mandated Shamrock not to notify her about the sale until it was complete. After the news came out, "We Love You, Taylor" started trending worldwide on Twitter, with Swifties making their feelings known. Fans wondered if Taylor was connected to the investment fund, but she released a statement clarifying she wasn't part of this deal at all and still does not own the masters. Swift wrote her album Reputation as a defense mechanism that allowed her to cope with the fallout and public scrutiny. She secluded herself from press attention because she needed to protect her mental health and stop feeling obliged to explain herself. On the Reputation Stadium tour, Swift was inspired by the love she received from fans to embrace positivity and vulnerability. Despite her tarnished reputation in the press, she realized her fans see her as a flesh and blood human being. To this end, she conceived her 7th studio album as a personal, vulnerable record that would connect her with her audience and showcase her strengths as a singer-songwriter. Swift wrote Lover as a reflection of her personal life, describing it as very confessional and autobiographical, yet also playful and whimsical. She also said the album was a love letter to love in all of its maddening, passionate, exciting, enchanting, horrific, tragic, wonderful glory.
20 years. Can I go where you go? Can we always be this close?
The track list consists of 18 songs, more than any of her other albums, depicting many sentiments stemming from love. The imagery of Reputation was dark and cold. Lover's bright colors and themes contrasted this. However, a common misconception is that Reputation, lyrically, is all about revenge. Although some songs do touch on this, the majority of the album details falling in love with Joe amidst all the personal tumult. Lover acts almost as a sister album, further detailing the relationship and the highs and lows of what she had been going through. In the closing track, Daylight, Swift contemplates that love to her now is golden rather than burning red, as she once believed, a reference to the title track of her 2012 studio album, Red. The song represents Swift's mature understanding of love, her personal life, and her public image. Although mainly positive, some critics felt as though Lover was a bit too much like an unnecessary course correction from Reputation, rather than a collection of themes Swift was really interested in pursuing. The album features some career highlights: Cruel Summer, Lover, Cornelia Street, and Daylight. However, fans often feel as though the album is too long and includes some of Swift's worst work to date, including the lead single, Me. Because of Reputation's poor critical success, many believe Swift wanted to distance herself completely and start new with the pop sounds and bright colors. Both albums have now become fan favorites and have received their flowers, but at the time, it seemed as though Taylor was at a crossroads with her career. Although she was still doing well commercially, she wasn't at the height she was at a couple years prior during her 1989 era. The ongoing Kanye feud and relentless tabloid scrutiny had taken a toll on Taylor. In April 2020, Taylor Swift was set to embark on Loverfest, her 6th concert tour in support of the album. However, the tour was canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. On July 23, 2020, 9 captionless black and white images of Taylor standing alone in the woods were uploaded to Swift's Instagram account. She posted another message on all of her social media platforms saying that her 8th studio album would be released at midnight. Swift stated, "Most of the things I had planned this summer didn't end up happening, but there is something I hadn't planned on that did happen. And that thing is my 8th studio album, Folklore." The creation of the album was totally unexpected. Whilst Taylor was in quarantine, she watched numerous films, from LA Confidential, Jane Eyre, Rear Window, and Marriage Story. She also read more books than she ever had before, books that dealt with times past, a world that doesn't exist anymore, such as Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. The fiction encouraged Swift to write songs that weren't strictly autobiographical and instead experimented with alternative points of view. She allowed her imagination to run wild when she was alone during the period of lockdown, creating a series of thoughts and visuals that later became folklore. Folklore was supposed to be released in early 2021, but it ended up being done earlier and released without a second thought in July 2020. She approached the album's creation without subjecting herself to any rules and explained that she used to put all these parameters on herself, like, how will this song sound in a stadium? How will this song sound on the radio? If you take away all the parameters, what do you make? And I guess the answer is folklore. Swift told Billboard, "It started with imagery, visuals that popped into my mind and piqued my curiosity. Stars drawn around scars, a cardigan that still bears the scent of loss 20 years later, battleships sinking into the ocean, down, down, down. The tree swing in the woods of my childhood, hushed tones of let's run away and never doing it. The sun-drenched month of August, sipped away like a bottle of wine. A mirrored disco ball hovering above a dance floor. A whiskey bottle beckoning, hands held through plastic. A single thread that, for better or worse, ties you to your fate. Pretty soon, these images in my head grew faces or names and became characters. I found myself not only writing my own stories, but also writing about or from the perspective of people I've never met, people I've known, or those I wish I hadn't. For Folklore, Swift's lyrics veered towards escapism and romanticism. She enlisted 2 producers to achieve her desired sound. Her longtime collaborator, Jack Antonoff, with whom she'd previously collaborated on the albums 1989, Reputation, and Lover, and Aaron Dessner, guitarist for the American indie rock band, The National. Due to COVID-19 concerns, Swift, Antonoff, and Dessner quarantined remotely, separate from each other, creating Folklore by continually exchanging digital files of instrumentals and vocals. The album ensued from a DIY process, mixed and engineered by personnel scattered across the US. Folklore was written and recorded in secrecy. Swift, her boyfriend, family, management team, Antonoff, and Dessner were aware of the album's creation. She did not disclose the news or play the album to her friends like she did with her previous works. Near the end of Folklore's recording process, Dessner reached out to his regular collaborators, including the National bandmates, to provide instrumentation remotely. Folklore asserts something that has been true from the very start of Swift's career. Her biggest strength is her storytelling, but this time her sound departed from pop maximalism and synth-driven to an alternative indie folk sound. The stories told in Folklore include a ghost that discovers its murderer at its funeral, a young girl with a traumatized friend, an elderly widow shunned by her community, recovering alcoholics, and a love triangle between the fictional characters Betty, James, and an unnamed woman, as depicted in the tracks Cardigan, Betty, and August, with each of the 3 songs written from each of the characters' perspective at different points in their lives. DIY techniques were used to produce the album art, packaging, and lyric videos for Folklore. Due to COVID-19 issues, Swift worked without a technical crew on the visuals, with photographer Beth Garabrandt. The photo shoot marked a change from Swift's older shoots, where she would have 100 people on set, commanding alongside other people in a very committee fashion. She styled herself, including hair, makeup, and wardrobe, and prescribed Garabrandt a specific mood board. The black and white grayscale filter on the photos gives them their distinguishing look. Swift departs from the Technicolor carnival of its predecessor, Lover, and adopts a rustic, nature-focused, cottagecore aesthetic for Folklore that reflects its lyrical ideas of escapism. She opens the music video for Cardigan by settling down at an old piano in a quaint cabin in the woods. The album was instantly hailed as Swift's magnum opus, met with widespread critical acclaim from critics and fans alike. Folklore shows Swift at her most vulnerable. The emotional weight and introspective songwriting made it her most sophisticated and subdued body of work. she uses the eccentric debutante Rebecca Harkness, who married into the Standard Oil dynasty and once lived in Swift's Rhode Island house, in her story in The Last Great American Dynasty, to celebrate women who have a marvelous time ruining everything. You're able to visualize the song's events in your head like a tale, because it is rich with historical information and Americana imagery. But it also makes a powerful statement about how society views outspoken women. At the conclusion, Swift skillfully creates a distinction between Harkness and herself. The album has been contextualized as the quintessential lockdown album and felt like the perfect accompaniment for the weird loneliness of 2020. It is hailed as the first great pandemic art. Folklore and its songs received 5 Grammy Award nominations at the 63rd ceremony, winning the Album of the Year. Swift became the first woman in history to win Album of the Year thrice, and the 4th artist overall, tied with Frank Sinatra, Stevie Wonder, and Paul Simon. On December 10th, 2020, Swift once again surprised her fans with the announcement of her 9th studio album and Folklore's sister record, Evermore. She described Evermore as an offshoot of the Folklorian Woods. Swift and Dessner continued to collaborate virtually. After the release of Folklore, he would give her instrumental recordings to which she would add vocals. She stated the rave reception of Folklore encouraged her to experiment further with its musical style. Evermore was dubbed a weird avalanche, effecting from Folklore by Dessner. Evermore's creation was a more experimental process than its predecessor was, during which the duo did not subject themselves to any limitations. Much like Folklore, on December 10th, 2020, 3 days prior to her 31st birthday, Swift posted 9 photos on Instagram, which together formed an image depicting the singer's back, with her hair in a braid and facing a forest. Swift wrote, "You've all been so caring, supportive, and thoughtful on my birthdays, and so this time I thought I would give you something. I also know this holiday season will be a lonely one for most of us, and if there are any of you out there who turn to music to cope with missing loved ones the way I do, this is for you." Prior to the Willow music video premiere, Swift said she likens Evermore to fall and winter, in contrast to its predecessors, spring and summer.
The more that you say, the less I know. Wherever you stray, I follow. I'm begging for you to take my hand, wreck my plans. That's my man. You know that my train could take you home. Anywhere else is hollow. I'm begging for you to take my hand, wreck my plans. That's my man. The more that you say, the less I know. Wherever you stray, I follow. Begging for you to take my hand, wreck my plans.
Evermore is a personal album that has a strong foundation in character studies, narrative myth-making, and complex first-person storytelling from third-person views. It further explores the fantastical universe that Swift created with Folklore by using fact and imagination. The escapist themes of both albums are similar, but Evermore is bolder, unrestrained, frivolous, and impressionistic, digging deeply into Swift's concepts of adult love and grief, in contrast to Folklore's more introspective and sentimental nature. It was at this point in Swift's career that she was regarded as the songwriter of her generation. These 2 albums were career redefining and threw emphasis on Swift's work ethic, helping critics recognize her musicianship, now viewing her as a dedicated singer, moving away from her pop star image in the mid-2010s. a Taylor Swift fan is hard work, and she doesn't make it easy. Ever since the beginning of her music career, the singer has constantly left Easter eggs within her work to leave fans guessing. Whether it be hidden messages in lyric booklets or teasing albums months in advance, Swift has been the queen of teasing fans since day one. It's sort of a tradition that we started a very long time ago, Swift said to Jimmy Fallon about the origins of her Easter eggs. I think the first time that I started dropping sort of cryptic clues in my music was when I was 14 or 15, putting together my first album. While Swift stopped this tradition during the Reputation era, she had a habit of hiding messages in her old work. Specifically, she would hide liner notes in the lyrics of each of her songs in her CD booklets. From Fearless to Red, all of her lyrics were lowercase, and the message could be deciphered through the capitalized letters. For 1989, she did the opposite. During these eras, Swift's dating life was often much more publicized than it is now. The singer even used her music to address her romances, from hidden messages to pointed lyrics. Some of her references were more obvious, as the liner message for "Should Have Said No" just said the name Sam repeatedly, addressing a former boyfriend who allegedly cheated on her. Others were more subtle, like the liner note for "Last Kiss" being "Forever and Always," a reference to a song title from her former album that is said to be about Joe Jonas. As the Reputation album kicked into full gear, the music video for her lead single, "Look What You Made Me Do," was full of Easter eggs. Since she wasn't doing interviews during this era, Swift said it was her way of communicating and staying connected to her fans. "Literally, the whole video is just an Easter egg," she said to Entertainment Weekly. "There are thousands of Easter eggs. There are some that people still haven't found. It will be decades before people find them all." One of Swift's biggest Easter eggs came in the form of an Instagram post in April of 2020, when she shared a photo of herself with the caption, "Not a lot going on at the moment." Given that this was during the height of the pandemic, fans did not consider this an Easter egg at the time. Of course, once the singer revealed she was releasing her 8th studio album, Folklore, all became clear. As Folklore's release had fans scrambling to figure out all her Easter eggs, one major one was William Bowery, who was created on 2 Folklore tracks and is later credited on 3 for Evermore. Swifties were quick to figure out that William Bowery was a pen name for Swift's boyfriend, Joe Alwyn, as his great-grandfather's name was William Alwyn, and the Bowery Hotel was where Swift and Alwyn first hung out in 2016. Swift confirms William Bowery's identity in her Disney Plus film, teasing that William Bowery is Joe, as we know. On February 11th, 2021, she announced on Good Morning America that the re-recording of Fearless, to which she added the subtitle Taylor's Version, was the first in the series of her re-recorded albums. She released an anagram-filled video from The Vault, which referred to all of her unreleased songs from the album. The vault door is about to be as unhinged as you think I am after you watch this video, she said on social media. Level expert, happy decoding. Fans managed to decode the titles of the 6 new vault tracks and the name of one of her collaborators, Keith Urban, who is featured on a song. The vault tracks Swift wrote when she was in her teenage years and intended to include in, but ultimately left out of, the original Fearless release. Swift said by including these unreleased tracks, which she absolutely adored, but were held back for different reasons, the re-recorded album proved that the artist is the only one who really knows that body of work. The same arrangements and lyrics are used as they were on the original recordings. which prompted numerous critics to note that a casual listener might not know any differences, but underlined that the production includes more defined instruments, a crisper mix, and greater quality. Journalists described Fearless, Taylor's version, as a key event in raising awareness for artists' rights in the music industry. They considered the Taylor's version branding an effective strategy in mobilizing Swift's fans to consume the re-recorded album over the original. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 chart, a return to the #1 spot 13 years after the original release in 2008. On June 18, 2021, Swift revealed that Red, Taylor's version, would be released on November 19, 2021, and would contain all 30 songs that were meant to be on the 2012 version. She also teased the original 10-minute-long version of the fan-favorite track, All Too Well, which had been highly requested by fans as part of the track listing. On August 5th, Swift posted a cryptic video across her social media, teasing a word puzzle for the fans to solve. It spelled out Chris Stapleton, Phoebe Bridgers, Babe, Better Man, and All Too Well 10-minute version. Swift revealed a teaser for All Too Well, the short film. The teaser showed a vintage car driving past a road bounded by autumnal woods. And it was written and directed by Swift, starring herself, Sadie Sink, and Dylan O'Brien. This song has always been hailed as Swift's magnum opus by critics and fans. The song details the story of her breakup with actor Jake Gyllenhaal. Before All Too Well was cut down to a 10-minute version, and then more to a final 5-minute and 28-second version, American songwriter Liz Rose, with whom Swift wrote the song, believed it was probably a 20-minute song. Memories are the building blocks of All Too Well. The song relies on specifics of the rise and fall of a romantic relationship, drawn from memory. Apart from mentioning more expository details, All Too Well 10-minute version provides greater context than the 5-minute version. Swift mentions the age difference between her and the subject several times and states how the subject used it as an excuse to terminate their relationship, but continued to date women of her age. She recollects the build-up and intensity of falling in love and acknowledges her naivety. The track was met with universal critical acclaim, often hailed as the standout track on Red and a career highlight for Swift. Publications have said the release of Red, Taylor's version, All Too Well, 10-minute version, the accompanying short film, and Swift's re-recording venture collectively is one of the biggest newsmakers and pop culture moments of all time.
My old scarf from that very first week, 'cause it reminds you of innocence and it smells like me. You can't get rid of it, 'cause you remember it all too well. 'Cause there we are again when I loved you so, back before you lost the one real thing you've ever known. It was rare, I was there, I remember it all too
At the 2022 MTV Video Music Awards, Swift received 5 nominations for the short film, winning 3 of them. In her acceptance speech for the Video of the Year award, she announced a brand new studio album, scheduled for release on October 21st, 2022. Soon after, the phrase, "Meet me at midnight," and a clock that was ticking down to midnight were added to Swift's official website. Some of Swift's tracks on Spotify had their song canvases changed to a picture of a clock. At midnight, Swift posted across her social media accounts that her 10th studio album would be titled Midnights. She described the album as the stories of 13 sleepless nights scattered throughout her life. Swift's official website crashed due to heavy traffic following the posts. According to Swift, the subject matter of Midnights was inspired by 5 major topics: self-hatred, revenge fantasies, wondering what might have been, falling in love, and falling apart. When Swift's and Antonoff's partners, Joe Alwyn and American actress Margaret Qualley, respectively, were filming in Panama for the 2022 romantic thriller movie Stars at Noon, they decided to team up to co-produce Midnights. Since 1989, Jack Antonoff has worked with Swift repeatedly. Swift and Antonoff collaborated in New York City while their co-stars shot. The duo wrote 11 of the album's 13 songs together. Of the remaining 2, Swift wrote the track Vigilante Shit alone and Sweet Nothing with Alwyn, who is credited with his pseudonym William Bowery. In contrast to folklore and Evermore's indie and alternative folk sound, Swift set out to make an experimental pop album, extending her alternative approach to synth pop sounds. Midnight's distinctive sound has been described as maximalist minimalism, which incorporates soft melodies, emphasized beats, and vintage synthesizers. After experimenting with fictional plotlines and characters in Folklore and Evermore, Swift makes a return to lyricism that is primarily autobiographical with this album. The New Yorker said Midnights is a collage of various emotions during the spontaneous, restless headspace of nighttime thought. With a distinctive confessional but cryptic tone, the key topics include feminism, insecurity, anxiety, and self-criticism. The lead single, Antihero, examines her mental insecurities in depth, detailing the things she hates about herself and her struggle with not feeling like a person. Themes addressed include ghosting acquaintances, camouflaging narcissism as altruism, fears of relationships being transactional, and Swift's inability to commingle with people, normally due to her celebrity status. Upon the release of Midnights, Antihero earned over 17.4 million plays in its first 24 hours on Spotify globally, becoming the biggest opening day for a song in the platform's history. Midnights is Swift's most commercially successful album to date. It broke a string of sales, streaming, digital, vinyl, and official chart records globally. Billboard declared it a blockbuster. According to Universal Music Group, Midnights moved 3 million global album equivalent units in its first week and over 6 million in 2 months. It broke all-time records on Spotify, such as those for the most streamed album in a single day with 186 million streams in its opening day, surpassing the previous record of 155 million streams by Drake's Certified Lover Boy. She scored the most historic week in the 64-year history of the Billboard Hot 100 Songs chart, as she was the first artist to claim the survey's entire top 10 in a single frame. Various publications dubbed Swift as the paramount pop star of the 21st century, wielding a commercial and cultural dominance surpassing those of her contemporaries. Swift had now become unstoppable. Her career has lasted longer than that of the Beatles, and even broke the band's once deemed unbeatable records. Critics lauded her ability to remain culturally relevant and successful 18 years into her music career, writing that the Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, David Bowie, and Bruce Springsteen were past their prime at that age. During her promotion of Midnights on talk shows such as The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon and The Graham Norton Show in October 2022, Swift hinted at an upcoming tour. On November 1st, she announced on Good Morning America and through her social media accounts her 6th concert tour, the Eras Tour, describing it as a journey through the musical eras of her career. The initial U.S. dates were so popular that several politicians and government officials demanded the tour be brought to their country or city. Everyone knew getting tickets for Taylor Swift's The Eras Tour was going to be a challenge, but no one, especially not Ticketmaster, the platform responsible for distributing said tickets, seemed remotely aware of just how messy the process would turn out to be. The Verified Fan program from Ticketmaster enables users to sign up in advance and have access to pre-sale tickets. The highest registration in the site's history, over 3.5 million individuals registered for the program in advance of Swift's tour, and roughly 1.5 million were allowed access to the pre-sale. However, according to Ticketmaster, when the pre-sale began on November 15, 2022, bots and fans without invite codes crowded the site, causing it to crash repeatedly and aggravating fans to the point of rage. Fans complained of hours-long wait times that resulted in technical glitches, as well as pre-sale phases that were rescheduled or canceled. On November 17, 2022, Ticketmaster announced that the general sale wouldn't open at all due to extraordinarily high demands on ticketing systems and insufficient remaining ticket inventory to meet that demand. Tomorrow's public on sale for Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour, has been canceled, the company tweeted. Soon after tickets became available on Ticketmaster, they went on sale all over resale sites, selling from $200 to over $22,000. Even some of the few who did initially get to purchase tickets may have paid more than they expected because of a dynamic pricing model. On November 18, 2022, Swift took to Instagram stories to address the controversy, writing a long statement that read, in part, "There are a multitude of reasons why people had such a hard time trying to get tickets, and I'm trying to figure out how this situation can be improved moving forward." On December 12, 2022, Ticketmaster began notifying select fans, identified as fans who received a boost during the Verified Fan pre-sale but did not purchase tickets, of a second ticket buying opportunity to purchase a maximum of 2 tickets per user through Tickets Today. Ticketmaster sold the first U.S. leg's remaining 170,000 tickets over 4 weeks. However, amid all the drama, the tour received rave reviews from music and entertainment critics, who praised both the high-end spectacle and polished artistry of the tour.
People would come up to me and they'd be like, "You gonna just like do a show with like all the albums in it?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's gonna be called the Eras Tour." See you there.
The versatility of the show's music, visuals, and performance art was often a point of praise in its reviews. Going through every era of her musical career creates a spectacle. As Swift had released 4 new studio albums since her Reputation tour in 2018, she thought this would be a good way for fans to be able to hear all the different songs. The Eras Tour broke ticket sales records worldwide. On the first day of the US presale alone, the tour sold over 2.4 million tickets, the most sold by an artist in a single day. And on August 31st, 2023, Swift announced the concert film Taylor Swift: The Eras Tour, directed by Sam Wrench. The Eras Tour had a tremendous effect on the entertainment world, the music business, and more. It was said to be one of the most significant 21st century cultural phenomena, attracting attention comparable to Beatlemania in the 1960s. The tour improved the local economies of its stops by boosting small businesses and tourism, drew sizable crowds of fans outside stadiums, dominated news cycles and social media, prompted government and organization tributes, and accelerated the public's consumption of her discography. Critics often described the Eras Tour as a monocultural event, demonstrating Swift's impact on popular culture. Swift is regarded as a trailblazer of the 21st century for her diverse music ability, songwriting skill, and business acumen, all of which have served as an inspiration to musicians, entrepreneurs, and businessmen all over the world. She started out with country music, migrated into pop, and experimented with alternative rock, indie rock, and electronic sounds, erasing the lines between musical genres. Her unique mix of chart success, critical praise, and fervent fan devotion has been characterized by critics as a cultural quintessence, allowing her to have an enormous effect on the music industry and beyond. There really is no stopping Taylor Swift. Her career has had its highs and lows, but she is now untouchable and unstoppable.